Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I didn't hear anybody. If you could join me for a moment of silence, please, for men and women in uniform and those fighting COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you. We'll open the meeting at 6:01. Remember, if you have a conflict of interest, you need to disclose it and make sure we're up to date on the policy. We have one adjustment to the agenda. Under number 7, if you could mark down new furnace at the Rangeley Comfort Station, not to exceed $7,500. That's number 7. New furnace at the Rangeley Comfort Station, not to exceed $7,500. I believe that's all of it, correct, Joe?
That is correct.
Thank you. Review and approve the minutes of February 1st meeting. I need a motion.
Make a motion, you accept the minutes of the meeting.
With any changes or corrections, correct, David?
Yeah, it's all set, yeah.
I need a second.
Second.
Any changes or corrections? All right. Page 2.
There's
Page
yeah, there's
2.
one.
Page 2, if you would, and then I'll get to you, Cindy, under old business. Hold on, I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
This is Kayla. I'm sorry. I did change the motion and second on the motion that Selectman Schaefer to approve the Zoom meetings. Those both say Egan. The corrected version says that Schaefer first and Egan second.
Well, there. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Anything else? Cindy, do you have any other changes?
No, that was it.
Shelley?
On page 2, Snowdio doesn't have the E in the, it's SNODEO.
Where? What?
Snowdio is spelled wrong. On line 12, under selectmen communication, select board communication.
Okay.
My apologies. I'll correct the spelling of Snowdio.
It's okay.
I hate to ask, but Ethan, you got anything? You probably found something too.
No, I like it.
Okay. All in favor as changed?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moved and seconded and all in favor. Incidentally, for those of you who can't see everybody on the screen, we do have a quorum. All of the selectmen are Zooming. Public to speak under non-agenda items. For the public, we have Mr. Beauregard. Nothing for Mr. Beauregard. Daryl Sterling, you're considered public, but you're on the agenda. All set? All right.
All set.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Next up is boards and committees. You have them all. Assume you reviewed them all. Any comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Consent items, municipal quit claim deed, book 4102, page 2635, Hotel Road. I need a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the municipal quitclaim deed from the inhabitants of the municipality of Rangeley to Gary Shamshoyan to release lien certificate at book 4102, page 26.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just have something, Steve. In the acknowledgement section for the notary, there needs to be a date for the notary, or the registry won't record it.
Would you like your motion amended to, once it's changed?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll amend my motion to approve it with the addition of a date for the notary section.
And I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Moved with the changes. Joe, you good with that?
Got it.
Thank you. All those in favor as amended?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Tax lien foreclosure, tax acquired properties. We've had this discussion before, and I'd like to propose a motion based upon our previous discussions. The motion from me will be to send a 90-day notice via certified mail to the previous property owners of tax acquired properties foreclosed on by the town of Rangeley, January 2021.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Some discussion, please. Hearing none?
I've got
Oh,
some.
Cindy, did you have a question?
Yeah, just, the only one that concerns me is the, map 8 lot 27. It appears to be the Betts primary residence there, so there hasn't been a response at all.
I can't answer that. I don't know.
No, there has not. There's been no effort to take care of these taxes.
Anything else? Shelley?
So have we walked through this with our attorney to make sure that it hasn't done anything to the process?
Joe?
So I'm not sure I understand the question, Mr. Chair. Have we run the foreclosures through legal?
No, I mean like, so with the 90-day extension, is that something that we have? Because I know with foreclosures, you have to do step by step by step. If you don't, it starts the whole thing all over again. It might be different for banks versus municipalities, but I just want to make sure that we're not making a decision that could make us have to do the process all over from scratch.
I'm pretty confident, Mr. Chair, that we wouldn't have to repeat the process. The town is the owner of these properties at this point. And what you're proposing to do is give these prior owners 90 days to give them notice, 90 days notice of your intent to sell the property.
And are we also reviewing the letters that are included with it too, or are we just making the motion on the 90 days?
Can I add something, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
The MMA recommends 90 days to do a notice of 90 day till we sell the property or decide to sell the property. And the form that I used is the form that MMA recommends.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Shelley?
Well, I think, well, I'm just looking at the letter, and so it was just confusing to me. Do we have to legally say the same names that are at the registry of deeds? Do we, and the 7/17/2021, is that the date of the letter? Or is that the expiration? That's not really clear of what that date represents. And the
Rebecca,
other question,
hang on,
Oh,
let's
sorry.
do that one at a time. Rebecca, could you respond to the date, please?
That would be when the 90 days is up.
okay.
Okay?
Because
What's
it
your,
kind of looks like that's the date of the letter. And I just want to make sure they don't turn around and say, oh, 90 days from that date.
Well, there also will be a cover letter that goes with it.
Uh-huh.
And I'll also submit applications for if you're 65 or older. I don't think that applies to anybody, but I still will submit those applications in with this as well.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that on the first letter, like you don't have to have their full name that matches at the registry of deeds. And then on the other letters, there's a couple on there that says Aquasic. And I know that what's that?
what was it that it said? I didn't hear that.
Then in some of the other letters where it says it's located, it gives the location, then it says Aquasic. I just know in my world that Aquasic is the town of Rangeley. And that could mess up all the legal documents. So I'm just throwing that out. I don't know what the legalities are on that. I just want to make sure that.
I can't answer that. Joe?
We will look into that, Mr. Chairman, and make sure that it identifies it as the town of Rangeley on the documents. And we'll double check the date before we
Cindy?
send them out.
Yeah, I was just gonna follow up. I didn't know if the 90 days was from January 8th, 2021. That's referenced in these draft letters. If it is 90 days from January 8th, then that date of 7/17/21 would need to be revised. And yes, according to the Franklin County Registry of Deeds, there is no town of Aquasic to register a document under. It's the town of Rangeley only.
Okay, so the points that we need to clarify are the date on this paper here of 7/17/2021. I agree that that's not a correct date, even with the 90-day from this point forward. That takes us too far out. So that's number one. And second, a clarification on, not a clarification, changing the wording to Rangeley on all of them that say Aquasic. And go ahead, Cindy.
It's okay, not to confuse my, it's okay to say Village of Aquasic in the town of Rangeley. If it's important to qualify it, but you just can't use Aquasic by itself.
Yeah, I was in agreement with that. Yep. Okay. And then did we miss any other points? Because I have a hand. I see you, Chris. I'll get you. Joe, anything else? I want to make sure my board is Ethan? Nothing? David?
No,
Okay. All right. My board's all set. Chris?
I was just going to say a real good measure of practice I see other municipalities do is send a copy of the recorded page. You get that back from the registry. You send a copy of the recorded lien, that really kind of makes it front and center. And then that way, if you've had some kind of a clerical error or something in the wording there, you've provided a copy. I think that will cover a lot of what Shelley's concerns are. Absolutely, if you do use Aquasic, it definitely, in every standard deed, it's Village of Aquasic in the town of Rangeley. So if you feel that really, especially with an elderly person, I recommend that's lived there a long time, you put that in there so that it's clear to them. So.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else? Would you approve it with these changes made? How do you feel about that? Shelley, yes? Cindy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Ethan?
Yes.
David?
yes,
Okay, you have a motion as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Thank you very much. Let me mark that down here. Next up on the consent items is a new furnace for the Rangeley Comfort Station, not to exceed $7,500. Joe?
Mr. Chairman, over the weekend, the Wiesmann propane heater in the Rangeley Comfort Station finally gave up the ghost. It's been a bone of contention for a number of years. It's been repaired several times, and the estimate to repair it this time is about half of what it's going to cost to replace it. In talking with Keith, I think it's time to move on from that model. I think it was one of the first generation of that model of propane heaters that came out. And we've had trouble getting parts over the years and trouble keeping it running in cold weather. So Keith and I talked about it. He's got some estimates, and we're going to talk more tomorrow about which way we're going to go with it. But we're all The estimates so far are below 7,500. So I think we're comfortable coming to you to ask for authorization to spend up to 7,500 from the Comfort Station Reserve to replace that failed furnace.
Thank you, Joe. Questions?
Yeah, something wrong with that. I don't know what it is, but it runs steady all the time. Is that new furnace gonna take care of that?
It should.
There's something definitely wrong with that system. I don't know if it's the furnace or what's running there, but it runs basically 24/7. It shouldn't be. The one in the closet runs right. I don't know what the difference is. If I remember right, the heating bill was quite a lot higher in Rangeley for some reason.
Hey, can I speak to that?
Go ahead.
So part of that, the problem between Rangeley and Niquossic also, as we discovered, propane cost was there 2 years ago. There was an internal valve leak on that furnace in Rangeley, which created obviously a higher use of propane or discharge of propane. Another reason for the Rangeley station that for the running time difference is we have that air circulator that constantly runs. So I need to make an adjustment with that piece of equipment also. But this furnace should definitely be more efficient, and we should see more realistic numbers of true representation of how that heating system is supposed to work.
All set, David?
Yeah, so that's probably what it was, the air circulation system that was messed up. Ran all the time. Pretty much. That's probably all it was.
Correct.
Thank you. Shelley, anything? Ethan?
Yeah, which models are you more comfortable with, Keith? Are you just getting estimates on what your plumbers think are best, or you have something you got your eye on?
We do have a model number, Mr. Chair. It's a Viessmann B1HA35 heat-only boiler. So it's a Viessmann, but it's an updated model. And Keith and I are still talking about the details of that. We didn't have the luxury of a lot of lead time on this, but we're doing our due diligence with it for sure. But that's what we're looking at. Is that correct, Keith?
That is correct. I've been told through 4 conversations this morning, obviously Viessmann is a higher end model or manufacturer. Parts do come out of Germany, but most of the contractors I talked to this morning do have a basic inventory of parts for this model particularly. We could go with a more generic, I say generic or other models. I can't think of the other brands right now. The situation in this case, we can still use a portion of that furnace. The coil portion, this new unit will fit over the existing framework or into the existing framework. So it's kind of a more of a streamline or time frame sensitive opportunity, and it still meets every bit of criteria that we're looking for.
All set, Ethan?
Yeah, he answered the second question was about availability of parts, because I know Viessmanns are high end and sometimes people have trouble getting parts, but his distributors and contractors are saying they've got them, then it's a good model.
Okay, thank you. Cindy, anything?
Yeah, I just, where the potential purchase is potentially over $5,000, can we just make sure we're following the purchasing policy? If it's a single source, then we need to make sure that's noted in public. But I don't recall it specifically, but there's something about over $5,000 that's triggered me. That's it.
Thank you, Cindy. My question is this coming from your technician, people that we do business with that services our furnaces?
Correct.
Very good. Any more questions? I need a motion.
Make a motion, we spend the money. 7,500.
Up to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Here a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Thank you.
Steve, is there a Superior Court something or other under consent items that was before new furnace?
Yeah, I was just going to that.
Okay, sorry.
No, my bad. I skipped over it. I missed it. It says Superior Court Civil Docket Number AP-21-1, Legal Representation. Joe, could you go over that quickly, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I can. In the board's last meeting, there was a concern raised by one of the members about Freddie Flaherty representing the town. I did, at the chair's request, have a conversation, a couple of them with a brief, very brief conversation with that select person. And kind of let them know, found out what the concerns were. I called MMA for a little guidance, and MMA suggested that I reach out to Freddie Flaherty and ask them about the safeguards that are in place at their firm, which I did. I did that, and I think what I will recommend to the board at this point is that you meet as a group and we invite those folks into an executive session with you to kind of talk about the safeguards that are in place and any concerns that you have may have about that.
So the recommendation is that we have a meeting in executive session about this at the next meeting. And
Yes,
then we
Mr.
can bring
Chair.
our concerns there. And David, Shelley, Cindy, Ethan, you all set with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Strongly against it, but I'm outvoted, so.
Hold on, David, before you go any farther, let's remember, some of the things that are going to be discussed need to be done in executive session, so please.
Right.
Okay,
I just want the public to know what's going on.
I missed that, Dave. Say again?
I just want the public to know I'm against it.
We'll come out and report for sure. You got to get the legal background first. Okay. We all set with that for the next meeting?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Under correspondence, tax penalty inquiry, there's been a request from Mr. Beauregard. I'd like to table that till the next meeting till everybody gets a chance to read all of the documentation. Some was just sent out to us today. And go into executive session, talk this over so everybody get all of the data and then come out and report to everybody. We good with that, Cindy?
I'm not sure this qualifies for executive session. Anything
You wanna-
financial, anything,
Go ahead.
anything financial, we have to discuss publicly.
No, we will. Go ahead, Joe. You can.
If it's financial, I agree with that. If there's any element to this that may have connotations of personnel concerns, that is an executive session item. So it may be worthwhile to make sure that that's not the case in executive session, and then you can, talk about other things in public.
Cindy, that was the reason for the suggestion of doing it that way. I just lost you, Shelley. Did you have a question?
No,
Oh, okay. Ethan, anything?
No, I agree with Joe. That's why I figured you were headed to executive session.
Okay, any? Good for tabling. I need a motion to table to the next meeting.
I make a motion to table it till next meeting, I guess.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Next up, old business. TIF, we're going to have Daryl give us a presentation and clarifications from Joe. Go ahead, Daryl. Greetings. Welcome.
Greetings, thank you. What we wanted to do is talk about the home stretch, where we are as we're coming up to March 9th, a little over 3 weeks towards the referendum vote. And looking at the press release, we've updated it. And it's been on the website and social media, and we're looking at distributing that in the form of a poster around some of the local businesses that people frequent. And there will be another press release coming out next week, which is going to be more of the FAQ. This is what the TIF is. These are the benefits for the community. So we'll keep moving forward as we get closer to March 9th. With that, there is another thing in place I'm not sure you're aware of, but Joe and I have been looking at taking video clips of all of the TIF workshops, all of the Zoom meetings that we've had, try to put something out there every 3 or 4 days coming down the home stretch that people will understand what that means. For example, one of the things will be the TIF workshop 101. What is a TIF? Why should the town consider having the TIF? It'll talk, that's one of the video clips. And then we have another one about the TIF development program and the important terms. And then we have some of the questions that came out in some of these public hearings and workshops with the relationship with the downtown mix of businesses and nonprofits, churches, governments, et cetera, and how that may tie in for grants and facades programs. So that's another video clip. We also have the select board TIF public hearing next steps towards TIF district adoption and so forth. And then back to key policy considerations and municipal goals of having the TIF. That's where it ties in to the next video clip that states how the town is well positioned for the TIF district based on the evolution from the comprehensive plan to the downtown plan and putting these economic building blocks in place that led us to this next logical step to do the TIF. And then we have the TIF workshop number 3 is a video clip of the development program with the defined physical boundaries of the TIF and what the omnibus downtown TIF district authorizes the communities to do. So we have 7 of those clips that range from 2 to 13 minutes, and I can cull through some more if needed and, come up with 3 or 4 other clips. This is trying to make it user friendly so people can click on and not have to go through an hour plus long meeting, but they can get it and it'll have the topics listed. So if someone wants to know about facades and TIF, they just click on and they would have that on the town website. So that's another piece we're doing towards the public outreach for TIF, along with the FAQ coming out next week and another press release, and also phone tree and calls to just speak with the businesses. I'll be doing a lot of that, and not just businesses but developers about the TIF. Many of them know about what the TIF and how it can be beneficial in the public-private partnership project. The other piece, of course, it gets back to the adopted development program that was approved on December 8th, and what that will, people can click on that. That is on the town website, right under the quick links. It's in the mix there, and we're trying to position some things so it's more site friendly. So when we're on the town website, we can pick up the TIF items a little more quickly and so forth. Let's see if I forgot anything. Oh, yes. Looking at the follow-up from a lot of the public input we've gotten. Mark, I enjoyed a lot of your comments when I called through all those Zoom meetings. Thank you. And looking at that, we've also taken steps, as you're aware, with the updated draft policy to have TIF policy that's local, that's the fit for Rangeley. And I went through your February 1st meeting and talked with Joe as well on the comments, to add, make some edits to that document. So we have the document consistency, Rangeley, and Aquasic, have a section on conflict of interest, and looking at the Cindy's comments to have up to 100% with input from the assessors. So those things will be adjusted so that you'll have a second draft to look at that'll incorporate all of those, that input. Also, for your entertainment, I sent you an approximate 15-page credit enhancement agreement in case no one's ever seen those before. And so that's the full template. And with that, I also have what you would call credit enhancement applications that I could send as well. And what's good about that is this is a template that's been approved legally. And so locally, when we are considering a credit enhancement agreement with a developer in a project, we could fill in the blanks and then start that negotiation process and then just have the legal review, where the fact we already have this document that can be tailored to fit various projects, the town will save a lot on legal review because they would only need the legal review for a filled out credit enhancement application. And that's where we are with those items. Joe, if I left out anything you want to pop up and.
I think you covered it all, Daryl. The biggest thing, Mr. Chair, is as Daryl noted, the special town meeting for this is March 9th. Absentee ballots are available currently, and we will be working on outreach in the next few weeks ahead of town meeting. So Daryl was correct. We're working on those items to get the word out to the public.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions from anyone or suggestions?
Yeah, Joe, this is David Halen.
Hi, David.
So up all these subdivisions with underground power, there's probably like, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 miles of underground. So they're putting all that new wire underground, right?
Joe, you want to handle that one, or Keith?
Joe, are you asking about broadband? I think it's a different topic you might be after.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the TIF still, I guess.
But TIF could maybe help incentivize some of the broadband projects. We do have that as an eligible income program expense when the time comes.
Yeah.
I have a question for Joe Roach, just because he touched on it. He said that you guys would be, or the folks in the office would be working on outreach. I had a citizen contact me this weekend, and admittedly not very familiar with technology, and wanted to know if something could be mailed to the citizens. I don't know what's possible, but I know during COVID, hard copies coming into the town office to get direct information is difficult. But his concern was that a March 9th vote, and he still didn't understand TIF at all, afraid about his taxes going up and such. I was wondering what kind of outreach you're thinking. This is Joe Roach, I guess, because I don't know how we go about it to get people to actually see it if they're not familiar with technology.
One of the things, Mr. Chair, that Daryl and I talked about today, some of the old school technology was using some large sheets of paper, putting the press release, the FAQs, the bullet points on those, and then putting them physically in places where people still visit, the post office, businesses, maybe a dozen or 15 places that we could think of, and get it out in that fashion. So we did actually spend some time talking about that this morning.
And Ethan, the other thing we could consider too is if they're not, up with the latest technology, but they're able to do an email, we could always send the press release as an email attachment to them, or consider a snail mail as needed.
Okay. I just figured I'd ask the question because it doesn't hinder me any, even if I wasn't on the board. I'm up and up on.
And I'm also
technology.
happy to take a phone call and I'll pretend we're advertising 207-807-9062.
Did you get that, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Cindy?
Yeah, so Daryl, on page 6 of the credit enhancement agreement, section 3.1, paragraph A, this is all subject to change. I mean, I know in our policy, our TIF policy, it indicates a cap of 75%, 75-25 for a credit enhancement agreement. And that would be at the top end, but we would have the ability to negotiate the nuts and bolts of this paragraph, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's why it's just put in there as a sample.
okay,
Yeah, there's flexibility, and I've worked with several credit enhancement agreements. And we've never given away the farm, like some communities have gone top shelf all the way up to 100% for some of those years. But there's you can negotiate it as based on the merits of the project. And it could be 75, 50, 25, 5 years. There's all the room to negotiate that, Cindy.
okay. That's good. It just saves us some negotiation time down the road,
Absolutely.
If the developer thinks, knows they can't capture 100%, then
Yeah.
we don't need to waste time discussing it.
Exactly. And I've never gone over 75% on any of the projects I've worked on, but you could still have enough incentive for the developer to want to participate. And also on the low end of a project, that's subjective too. That ranges, some communities say, all right, the project's got to be at least $1 million or 500,000 or 250,000 or 300,000. So again, the town could set that policy as far as what would be the minimal amount to want to enter into a credit enhancement agreement.
Questions? Mr. Beauregard?
This isn't as much a question as a comment, but I'm glad Daryl enjoyed my comments at the public hearings, but I didn't see in the second draft of the policy, TIF policy, where anything changed as far as voter input into the two items that were discussed as being important, the prioritization of the projects moving forward and the process by which they could have input in the TIF capturing less than 100%.
Yes, we looked at that, Mark, and the prioritization of the projects, that's pretty cut and dry. It's in the development plan that the selectmen with the Economic Opportunity Committee and department heads and others can do that. And if it's a bigger project, it can go to the voters to approve, to recommend or approve that. And Alyssa Tibbetts, our legal attorney for the TIF, mentioned that. And I think I have that in one of the video clips as well. The other piece that has to do with the appropriations or the funding, the way that would work is we have the language up to 100%, and that would be set annually. And that could go to the voters based on the recommendation to the selectmen, that based on input from the assessors and the development and redevelopment projects that are floating, for the year or the following year, to determine that amount, whether it's 100% or it captures less. Now, starting out with a TIF, the first couple of years, you're not going to have a lot of TIF revenue to do much with locally. So I think you may want to consider capturing 100% at least for the first year or two, and then you can gauge it annually, but that language can be put into the local TIF policy. And with TIF, when you're looking at expenditures, you want the legislative body, which is the town meeting approach or special town meeting. But with TIF, with the budget season, you'll have a rough idea what projects are going to be developed, but the actual money that's available in the TIF budget won't be known until the tax commitment is being set at the end of the summer. But you could still have a TIF budget sort of put out there, and we could have that language put into the policy draft, Mark.
Okay, Daryl, according to my notes, Alyssa had said that those things could be addressed in the TIF policy.
Yeah.
A mechanism for the voters to be involved in the capturing of less than 100%, but I don't see it in there.
Yeah, it will be, it can be added based on that. It wasn't intentionally left out. It definitely could be added. And what that does is it gives the town the flexibility annually to do that, and they don't have to go back to the state other than to inform the state that we're capturing 100% this year, but in 2023, we're going to capture 80%, for example. So those safeguards will be put in there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Chris, you had a comment, a question, I mean?
Yeah, I just think it's important as we start looking at these pieces is that we get a clear understanding of what I call soft costs, legal, those pieces, so that we can set fee structures correctly. In order to determine the minimum of these, doesn't make a lot of sense to put some of these in places where economically it's not going to work. People are not that familiar with TIFs. So I think it's important that we work out our proposed fee structure, which I assume would be borne by the person requesting the TIF. Because I'd hate for someone to start the process, especially when we're young in this, and realize they're 20 grand in, the benefit's not really there. So I think it's important to get all that stuff mapped out well, and then periodically reviewing our costs so we make sure that it's not a revenue negative situation for the municipality any more than what we're doing for the tax credit. And also that any developers hate surprises. So it's really important to map that stuff out in the initial parts. Otherwise, you could start off on the wrong foot and then nobody else would be interested due to their experience.
Well said, Chris. And that's been my modus operandi on any TIF project that I've been involved with. We're working with the developer. We do sort of a drive-by cost benefit analysis that shows by incentivizing the project, what is going to be the benefit as opposed to any negative, and also fee structures that enters into it in soft costs with the TIF budgeting process. When you can allow money for architects or engineering as an eligible expense, for example, and that would be in a draft budget form, and then that would be addressed on a case-by-case basis as a development project, is brought forward. Thank you.
Any other questions? Cindy?
So Daryl, I'm back to your policy and guidelines document. And on the last page, last paragraph, you discuss each year, you've got the Rangeley Region Economic Opportunity Committee, town manager, economic development consultant will make recommendations. So should there be some language in there regarding conflict of interest? For instance, I'll pick on you. You're working with Saddleback.
Not anymore.
Okay, I
want to make sure there's no conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict.
Okay, all right, because just really anyone.
Yeah.
On these committees or, there just should be, there should be some transparency as far as.
Yeah, I agree. And Joe Roach has access to this too. We have the MMA language on Maine Revised Statutes on conflict of interest and the appearance of conflict of interest. So we could easily insert a paragraph on that. We'll make sure that we do that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy.
Mhm.
Okay, we all set? Oh, Mr. Farmer has another question. Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, Cindy's conflict of interest is an important thing, but we have to remember Franklin County is pretty small and there's things that are gonna pop up. So I think we just need to make sure we have an ability that someone can recuse themselves. But otherwise, we may not have all the talent that we need involved in this process if we don't have people at all on the committee that could have any kind of conflict. I just think they just need to remove themselves from a project, no different than they would if they were on the planning board or any other committee on those issues. They're able to step away, and truly to step away means not participating in discussion, not participating in votes, any of those pieces. I just think otherwise, just the way that this town is in northern Franklin County, it doesn't leave you a lot of options for a good active board to be on. So something to think about.
Yep.
Good points. Thank you. Anything else from the board? Ethan? David?
No,
Okay, I see Shelley saying no. Vice Chair Egan, anything else there?
All set. Thanks, Steve.
I appreciate it. I appreciate, Daryl, your presentation. Remember that that the enhancement agreement is an example and all the documents in there are drafts. So stay tuned. Thank you, Mr. Beauregard, for your comments. Appreciate it. Next is the Comprehensive Plan Review and Implementation Committee bylaws. You have that before you. It's our first go around with this. I want to comment before we go any farther that Mr. Farmer has expressed an interest to assist this process. Thank you, Chris. It will be helpful and beneficial. Any questions on this first go around? I'm not going to read it. Okay, good. Next up, Firefighters Association Land Survey Update. I will tell you quickly that it's been done. Bill has been sent. I'll hand it over to Joe to fill in the details.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The town's portion has been received. It was $1,000 as requested. I've authorized that to be paid based on your motion. I have also been in touch with Steve Langsdorff regarding the automatic revert clause that we've discussed in the event that the FFA dissolves down the road, the property would become automatically again the property of the town of Rangeley, so it would revert automatically in that event. So he's working on that language, and when that comes back, I'll share that with you.
Thank you, Joe. Anything from the board? Okay, anything from the I see we lost Mr. Farmer. David, you got anything?
no,
Okay. Next up, the job description for the fire chief. You have in front of you the second go around. The changes have been made. I'm assuming all have reviewed and are in concurrence with the changes since they were our suggestions. If there's no further changes to be made, I'd like a motion to accept this presented.
So moved.
Okay, hang on, Shelley, I'll get to you. Moved?
Yes.
Yep. Any second?
I'll second it.
David seconded. Okay, Shelley, go ahead.
On page 5, it's still showing reports to town manager.
Okay, page 5, where?
On page 5, it says reports to, it says town manager.
Remember, further on in the meeting, we're going to have a warrant article changing it from us to the town manager.
Yep, but right now, everything is in conjunction with the selectmen still.
Hold on, I didn't get any of that. Help me out here.
If you look at the description, everything still refers to being under the selectmen.
Again, we're gonna get it changed at the warrant in June. we're hoping.
Mr. Chair, Selectman Lowell is correct. The purpose at this juncture is to have an approved job description for the fire chief on file. And currently he does report to the selectman. So this should say selectman under where it reports to. And then you'll have a bona fide signed and approved job description on file that's been signed by the board. And then you should just, I would recommend the board discuss the ordinance as a separate issue in a few minutes.
Okay, so on page 5 where it says town manager changes selectmen. With that change, would you change your motion, Cindy?
So amended.
David, you agreement?
Yes.
Anything else? Thank you, Shelley. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. 5-0.
So Steve, just a follow-up before we move on.
Yep.
Tracy had asked for the chief's review. I didn't know where that stood, where we had discussed collectively, but she needed a document for the file. Not that I'm asking for any, but is that still unfinished business?
I don't know. Joe?
I would have to defer to Tracy on that. Tracy?
I just need, yeah, I'm just looking for a completed evaluation to put in his file, his personnel file, just for record keeping purposes. I had asked Mike about it and he said it was left with the board. So I'm not sure if you all were compiling information and you're going to give me something to type up to put in there and sign off on. I just wasn't sure where it was left because it was executive session.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Because it was in executive session, are we required to release our notes on this?
I'll answer it this way. The jacket or the personnel file of employees, and this person is an employee of the board like myself, one of you should compile even if it's handwritten, evaluation form, share it with Tracy. She can print it and make it, she's helped me with this. She can make it formal, and then the chair can sign it and the employee should sign it, and that should go in the personnel file. And that would be the same process for any employee, not just the fire chief.
Okay. Let me ask, starting with, I don't care who, Cindy, what's your, my thought is this, and then you guys can fill in the blanks or change it completely if you'd like, that we take one form and start with, Shelley had a lot of very good questions during our analysis. And if we could review Shelley's and either agree upon it or add to, that would save us all a lot of legwork and just pass it around amongst us, because I know she took copious notes and did a very good job. So would you agree to that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And if there are, some goals that we can identify for the chief, then we should do that as well.
Okay, but again, to clarify, I don't think I said it correctly. My thought was we would add notes of our own and sign our name to those notes in conjunction with what we saw from Shelley, so that those goals would be, everybody would know it once they read the file, what I felt, how Cindy felt, how Ethan felt, et cetera.
Sure, I'm sure we could compile something.
Okay. You good with that, Ethan?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Shelley?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get Shelley's notes to the town office and then we'll go at it. Thank you, Cindy. Anything else in that arena? Here we go. Page 2. New business. You have the contract for North Star. We'll review and discuss. Cindy, you'll be receiving a phone call from Joe about getting together and talking about some strategy here. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Fire Chief Ordnance Amendment to report to the town manager. In the sheet that you have, hold on, let me find mine.
So are we gonna table that North Star?
Yeah, it's for your review, and we're gonna go over it after Cindy and I get back to you. It's
Okay.
just to let you know to review it. It's not, there's nothing to discuss tonight.
Okay.
Okay? Yep. Fire chief ordinance amendment here, let me get to it. I'm getting there, hang on, folks. There we are. Under the chapter 26, Rangeley Fire Department, Article 26.2, if you're there with me, page 2601, you all there? We're suggesting that it should say this: the
Yes.
fire chief shall be appointed by the town manager and ratified by the Board of Selectmen. All the rest stays the same. For a term not to exceed 4 years, taking into consideration, et cetera. If you're in agreement with that, we'll make a motion to present it as a warrant article for the June town meeting.
Same with
I make a
Article,
motion to present-
Oh, hold on.
Sorry,
I
what
don't
about Article 26.4?
yes, I agree.
Oh, I see the change there. I missed that one. Town manager. Thank you.
Yep.
Chime in if we missed anything else. Sorry about that. I had those. Ethan, did you have something? Did I miss it?
No, I agree with Cindy.
Yeah,
So you're just gonna replace Board of Selectmen with town manager?
correct.
The rules of general administration still come under the Board of Selectmen? On
This is regs do, I think.
26.7?
Bottom of the page. I think that should stay the same.
Okay.
With those changes, I hear a motion to present it as a warrant article.
So moved.
Motion to present as a warrant article.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Aye. Town manager reports. You have your department head updates. Any concerns or questions about those? Okay. Calendar, kind of important. Busy week here for a couple of us. On the 17th, Broadband Initiative Delegates, that's tomorrow, 2 p.m. Everybody's welcome to Zoom in. There is the coordinates and numbers and ID, et cetera. Also tomorrow, we have union meeting that will be attended by the vice chair and myself. That's at 3 p.m. On the 18th, budget meeting at 6 p.m. You want me to finish, Cindy? Is there something in between?
Something in between. I thought that the next union meeting was Friday at 3.
That's the actual
Right.
union business. I believe the one tomorrow was just discussing strategy, Cindy.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep, thank you. Again, budget, I know everybody's busy. Guys, I'm gonna scold you a tiny bit. You gotta, please do your utmost to be at the budget meeting because we almost fell short of a quorum to move forward, and B, it's gonna become too complicated further into the budget process if you're not up to speed on it. I know we all have jobs and but try to be there. Again, February 19th, another union Zoom meeting. It'll just be Cindy and I at that one. Other business. Joe, could you give us an update on MDOT 3-year work plan, please?
Certainly can, Mr. Chair. I received this email from Joan Walton at AvCog. This is one of the many services they perform for us. They keep an eye on projects. This is public information. The DOT puts this out, and you can research it if it's on your mind. This one came to us through Joan. The first item you'll notice on there is the master plan for the airport, and as we all know, based on their last meeting, that's going to be deferred. So that won't actually be happening until next year, probably. And on that note, I did speak with Stantec in a meeting within the last week or two. They kind of got me up to speed on some things. We followed up on the vote you took to send funds to Pittsfield. Pittsfield is very happy, by the way, Mr. Chair. Catherine Ruth has expressed her gratitude to you. And we are working on formalizing the written agreement. They actually are doing an ordinance hearing on it tonight in Pittsfield. So anyway, back to the projects in front of you. I thought it would be interesting to folks, because we're tourist related here, and a lot of people that drive in and out. The projects that are listed, there's ditching on Route 4 in Rangeley, beginning at Quimby Pond, extending to Route 17. Some ultra thin paving on Route 4. That's 7.5 miles. That's near the S turns, if I'm reading that correctly. And then some drainage maintenance. That's a smaller project in Township D. And then some planning studies. So this is something that's good for the town of Rangeley. The planning studies, and Daryl, if you haven't seen this, you're probably aware of it, for the scenic byways. So it's updating the plan to improve the ability to support the local tourism-based economy. So the Rangeley Lakes Heritage Trust is aware of this, and they're working on it. I know Bill Pierce is aware of it. Keith is aware of it. So we've got that in our sights. So I thought it was worth sharing with the board, Mr. Chair, that this plan is available, it's public, and those are some things of interest for the town of Rangeley.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve, can I follow up on Joe's comment with Route 4?
Sure, go ahead.
Just for clarification, that does include S turns, but that's going to be from Beach Hill Road back up to Dallas Hill. That 7.5 mile stretch of ultra thin skim coat.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
All right, very good. Any questions about that? Okay, very good, thank you. Tracy, Chapter 38 update.
Okay, so the planning board's been working for several months to try and get some stuff done in Chapter 38 that to try and keep in line with the dark night sky, and the signage, lighting, and solar are the three things that they hit on. It's going to ordinance. They finished up their work, so it's going to go to ordinance committee tomorrow. And after ordinance committee looks over their proposed changes, we're going to send it off to AvCog and legal. At that time, it's going to come back to planning board for a public hearing in March, and then it will come to you all for a public hearing to be scheduled the first meeting in April. We've tabled mooring for right now. We just didn't have enough time to give it the time and attention that it needed. And the sewer commission is ready to go. Back in 2015, state legislature removed the requirement for a sewer commission to sign off on the commitment, but our ordinance still requires it. So we're just going to take that wording out of there so that we can be a little bit more efficient in our sewing build out. So that one's ready to go also. So that's the ordinance update.
Questions for Tracy, please? Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Okay. Monthly expense and revenue report, you have that. It's in more of a standard format. Is there any concerns about the format, and do you have any questions regarding it? Kelly?
No, hang on a second. So question, are there like any concerns where we're over in certain categories or that we're worried about? And The other thing is that I'm assuming that with all the planning board and things, those legal services, do they come underneath the selectmen budget or do they actually have a separate category under planning?
Okay, well, I'm gonna split that up into two. Rebecca,
Okay.
could you answer the first one?
Well, I'm sorry, I had to unmute. No, there is no concerns as of right now, because you'll see overages on just lines within the budget. But if you look at the overall percentages of the budgets, they're all pretty right on where they need to be.
From a legal standpoint, Joe, could you chime in?
Yeah, so the majority of the town's legal expenses do come out of the selectmen's account. They're all charged there, so whether it's planning board or a call that you've asked for, or, you know, representation, general representation comes out of that account, except for this year, the expertise of Alyssa Tibbetts, that is coming from a different account. The legal person that's helping us through the TIF process, that is separate this year in this budget. But the rest of the legal services come from the selectmen's account.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Select board.
Sorry. Is there any way to split it out or no?
I didn't hear it.
Is there a
Is
way
there
to
any
split
way
it out?
Yeah,
Would you? There are two ways I'm looking at this question, Mr. Chair. Is there a way to split it out in the next budget, or is there a way to split it out so we can look at what's happened in this year's budget, or both?
for next year.
Okay.
So we
We
can
can
just
look-
basically have a better idea of where the funds are coming from. So if we have a bunch of ordinance things, then that's coming from the planning. So it doesn't look like that because we budget a certain dollar amount and we're going over. Of course, it's going to depend on each situation of why the legal is required. And if we're going to have the funds and the TIF gets approved and there are additional legal costs with that, that they have a separate line item too. I'm just trying to keep it separate, so no questions. But I don't know what you think.
Well, we can explore it, Mr. Chair. I believe we went past that section in the budget. That doesn't mean we can't revisit it. If the board would like that to be on your next agenda for Thursday to talk about that question, we can put it on there for you.
Okay.
Would the board like that, Mr. Chairman?
Cindy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth discussing. I mean, we're already at 89% expenditure for legal services for this year, and we still have 4 months to go. So it's legal services is pretty tight. So maybe an explanation would help, but as to why, because I don't think the board's been apprised on much over the past, since the fiscal year started. So yeah, it's worth discussing anyway.
Okay. Ethan, how do you feel?
Have you run into people asking these questions before, Daryl, about separating legal costs for TIF development?
Yeah,
Is it
usually
very
that,
Hold on, Daryl. Hold on. Go ahead, Ethan.
No, is it such an amount of money that it bears discussing?
All right, David?
I think they should know where the money's going.
Okay, then let's have that on the next agenda and we'll go over it then. Daryl, a germane comment, please.
yes, TIF would have its own cost account and it would have a line item for legal, and we would put a subjective amount in there, and there wouldn't be a lot of legal expense with the TIF the first couple of years.
Okay, thank you. So we'll have that on the next agenda and we'll go from there. I opened up the box. Go ahead, Mark.
On the separate TIF legal, would that come out of the economic reserve account?
That would be determined by the town if it was split, if it was a project that some of it was economic development project of sorts, or if it was TIF for legal, for review of a credit enhancement agreement, possibly. So it could be both, but usually in all the TIFs I work with, we look at what we project to be any legal components, and we usually have a nominal amount in there. We never go over that. It might be something like $2,500, for example.
Okay.
I'm referring to the present legal
Whoa,
bills.
whoa, guys. Joe, could you just answer Mark's question? Because it does come out of that account.
So current TIF expenses come out of, they do not come out of the selectmen's account. They come out of, I believe, the economic development reserve. Rebecca, can you verify that, please? And while we're,
Sorry, my mute button's not, my phone's broke, it's cracked. The stuff for the attorney's fees for TIF actually come out of the planning department.
I don't think so.
No, they do.
Well,
It was budgeted last year. I think it was $15,000 for a TIF attorney.
Okay, and then that will be part of the discussion as we move forward at the next meeting. I don't want to belabor this too much longer tonight, only because we don't have all the answers yet. Let's put it into a good discussion when we're ready next week, next 2 weeks. Are you good, Mark?
Thank you.
Daryl, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Very, very good, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca and Joe. Let's see. Next up is Select Board Communications. We'll start with Ethan.
No.
David.
No,
Cindy.
No,
Shelley.
Nope.
Okay, I have two. Here we go. I want to just thank Cindy for helping me out with some concerns regarding changes of events and how to go forward with that. Very helpful. It went off without a hitch, where I'm specifically referring to the fireworks display that was moved from Rangeley to Aquasic for the cystic fibrosis that we approved. Next up is I have had 4 people come to me this weekend, believe it or not, talked about broadband and strongly urging us to request an RFP. I just want my board to hear that, so that as we move forward with broadband, there are some people out there that are requesting, and that's all I have. Next, we have 2 executive sessions tonight. Labor negotiations, number 1, and an update, and personnel matters, number 2. No more, Joe, nothing is going to be moved on after that, correct?
I don't believe there's any action required under labor negotiations. I would say no there. And then the personnel matters is my evaluation. And I don't know what you're going to do.
Well, I'm looking at the smiling faces except for David, but I need a motion to go. There will be 2 motions, one after the second one when we come out of one, and we're going to do it in 2 motions. Need a motion to go into executive session for labor negotiations.
make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title 1, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056D, for the purpose of discussing labor negotiations.
I need a second. Thank you, Ethan. So move. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Left-hand side of the screen. I need that.
So, Mark, I'm going to put you in the waiting room. When the board comes out of executive session, I will let you back in so you can get the timestamp and any action they decide to take, okay?
Position.
At 7:30. And then I need a motion, all those in favor of coming out?
Oh, Mr. Chair, you don't need to vote to come out.
Okay, all right. We're gonna go back in on personnel matters. Cindy or somebody, could you make a motion on that?
Make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title 1, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056A for personnel matters.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, David. Okay, you have your town manager, 8:23.
Oh, Shelley just sent me a text saying her iPad died. So, you know,
She sent you a text. Just text her back and tell her to text the chairman.
maybe she texted us all. I'm not sure.
No, you can text her, it's all right.
I got one.
Hold it, don't do that. I just got it. I just got it.
Does she want to call in to finish the meeting?
You got a quorum.
Okay.
We're back in session at 8:23. For the public, you can notify everybody, Joe, or whoever would like to look at this tape, that we have completed the review of our town manager, Joe Roach. All 5 selectmen found him capable and able and a fabulous town manager, and we're excited to work with him into the future. If there's nothing else and no other comments, I'll entertain a meeting to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.